All right, welcome everybody. This is What's Up for You, and it's September 13th, 2022. So before we get started with your questions or comments, let me just check in with everybody real quick and see what that buzz is that I'm feeling. So let me just check in with that real quick, and we'll go from there. Yeah, so I think what I want to say to everybody today is you're safe. You're safe. It's okay. We're all coming right into our bodies to whatever degree we can, and there's a lot of transformation going on in the body. And even though there's a lot of change and transformation going on, there's also can be, if we will allow it, this real sense of safety, this real sense of it's okay to be in this body. It's okay for it to be having the transformation that it's having. Um, you know, the little, the the wobbles and sometimes strong ones and sometimes subtle ones that are going on right now are all transformational. They're all shifting us up, if you will. So yeah, so let's just start with that. It's safe, you know, to be in these bodies. It's okay. It's going exactly as it should go. So yeah. All right. So hopefully you guys have put some questions in the chat for Sharon. And are you ready with any of those, Sharon?
I am. So,
Okay, great.
first question is, how can I better use mind-to-mind communication to support nonverbal autistics? I have done some on your Awesomism course and feel called to do more.
You know, I think for you, you said mind to mind connection. And what I would suggest is maybe it's not mind to mind connection, but maybe it's heart to heart connection. And so just dropping down into that heart space. And what we want to remember all the time is that we are literally all one. And kids on the spectrum know this probably more than just about anybody on the planet. So when we tap into or when we connect heart to heart with any one of these children, we want to, number one, trust that they are taking us, they are making that connection and taking us where we need to go, right? So if we go in with the mind, then what ends up happening is we have a preconceived idea about what that connection is supposed to look like, what it's supposed to feel like, what kind of information might come back. And anytime we go into it from that vantage point, we're gonna cut off what we can actually receive from them. The the wonderful part also about this population is they're looking for people to interact with and communicate with all the time. And we see this right now out in the world. More and more people are channeling the kids or connecting with the kids in a way that maybe we haven't heard on a broad scale before. So we know that these kids are seeking us out as much as we are seeking them out. So let's just settle into the body, two, settle into the heart, and three, just whether you're connecting with the collective consciousness of the children or whether you're connecting with a specific child, just literally just set that intention. First, I'm in my body, then I'm in my heart, then I'm connecting with whomever I'm connecting with, and then I'm just noticing. I'm witnessing. I'm experiencing. Sometimes the first thing that happens is not words or not images. Sometimes it's a change in physical sensation. Sometimes you're being recalibrated, if you will, to make that connection. So let's not get caught in the idea that the minute we make a connection, that all of a sudden that individual or that collective is going to necessarily be, quote unquote, speaking to us. So yeah, body, heart, connection, and then just feel. Just feel. Yeah. I hope that's helpful.
Okay, this question is, Dear Suzy, I'm experiencing chronic lower back pain that intensifies around menstruation. When in meditation, the energy can't flow right through the pain area. It feels like a very hard knot that doesn't let anything through. Can you please share your insight about this and how I can release the stagnant energy? Thank you lots.
One of the things that we want to remember is that, again, we are clearing lifetimes of information in this lifetime. And we all have places and spaces in our bodies that are, we might consider like our weak links, the places and spaces in multiple lifetimes where energy has gotten backed up, clogged up, stuck in certain places. So when you're talking about the small of the back, you're also talking about fear, anxiety, stress, worry. That lower part of the back can be all about safety. It might be why we started this conversation with we're safe in our bodies, right? So you think about any number of lifetimes that any of us have had where we have not felt safe, right? And now maybe you had some early experiences, early on, early childhood experiences that also maybe made you not feel very safe. So you have a reference point for that particular kind of energy, and all that energy is trying to funnel its way, clear its way through the small of the back. So what I want to suggest here is we've also spent lifetimes trying to fix that or get away from that or not like that feeling because, I mean, quite frankly, it's uncomfortable. I mean, who wants to feel pain in their body? Nobody. But what we can do is we can be present. We can be as present to that energy as possible because that's the thing that has never happened lifetime after lifetime, right? We don't need a magic wand. We don't need a magic guru or some, you know, some form of, work or anything like that. If we can, okay, I feel this pain in my back. First, let's just identify it. It's pain, right? And it feels like it brings up fear, brings up worry, concern, it brings up anxiety, whatever the things are that naturally and organically come up simply because pain exists. Most of us are afraid of pain in our body because we're afraid it means the end of us. We're afraid of all kinds of things. But what I'd really suggest is when you feel that, without any story, without any conversation about what you think it means or where it's come from, because quite frankly, with all these lifetimes going through, you don't even really know. None of us know what the origin is. But what we can do, be in that energy of discomfort, turn our attention to it, right? We're not pushing against it. We're not trying to get rid of it. We're just putting our attention to it. And as we literally just sit in that felt perception for a moment, it will, at least part of it, will start to dismantle, right? I'm not saying that it'll dismantle all in one sitting, but if we go into it instead of push away from it, or go into it instead of try to get, yeah, you're going to find that it dismantles a lot faster. And not only will it dismantle, but it will also probably bring you insights and awareness as to what that fear is about in the first place, right? So pain in the body is energy that's no longer in motion. It's gotten stuck in one particular way or another. So we just want to go to it instead of push away from it. Yeah. All right. I hope that's helpful.
Someone left a comment that the first two questions were for her, even though her question hasn't been asked.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. Good. We're in that oneness principle now. There we go.
Yeah, so the next question is, hello, Suzy and Sharon. My son, Miguel, hits his forehead with his hands on his sister's back, knees, back and knees. He rarely hurts himself. How can I help him manage what is going on for him?
So let me make sure I understand this. He's hitting his head on her back or her knees. Is that what's happening?
That's how it reads.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Perfect. Well, in this case, again, we were just talking about blocked energy and, where it gets stuck in the body and things like that. Just because somebody's younger doesn't mean that they can't have stuck energy in the body. And especially, again, we're clearing lifetimes of information. So it doesn't matter what the age of the individual is. But it looks like Miguel is coming up where he's hitting her, his head on her back. It's like his information, his wisdom moving through that that spinal column, her back, right, kind of behind the heart part of her as well. So it's kind of like open, 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 right? So he's just so let's make that a little bit, because we can. Let's just make that a little bit easier on her. So she's, letting that energy flow and make it a little bit easier on him as well, so that he doesn't feel like he's in charge of helping her open that. It's like heart energy and moving forward, heart energy and moving forward, opening the back of the heart so that she can move forward. So, his she's got some stuff to do here, is I guess what I really want to say. And at her young age right now, it's not as apparent that she could get stuck in some of that old heart energy from other lifetimes and other incarnations. And here Miguel comes along and he can see that very easily. So he's already trying to break it up, break it out. But let's shift this out, because he doesn't need to be taking responsibility for that, and she can open that flow up without having her back beat upon. So let's just open that field. Hold on a second here. Yeah. Okay. So when her heart opens, we're wanting that energy to go up and out. It's almost like um, breaking up that energy in the back of the heart and letting that energy go up through the chakra system and kind of almost like cascade down, out, and around her. There we go. So it gives her a little bit of a space, or a little bit of her own heart energy to move into, to step into, to move forward into. Here we go, keep going. Miguel has a little place on his back. He's going, can we look at this too? So we'll just move that too while we've got him here. And yeah, he's clearly seeing what we're doing energetically. So, okay, so let's move this lower back stuff. And again, person who had lower back stuff before, jump into this energy field as well, because we might be able to loosen some of that up there as well. Okay, just open, open, open. Yeah, for Miguel, it's more like stability here, lower back stuff across that whole pelvic girdle, him just trying to settling into his body. And for his sister, it's more trying to move this energy, this heart energy up and out, so that she has a space to step into over and over again as she steps forward in her life. So, yeah, there we go. I'll do it.
All right, next question. Hi, I keep noticing old patterns coming up, especially in my relationship. I don't like acting in these ways anymore. What can I do to build better habits?
Yeah, so again, first let's cut ourselves some slack, because again, these are, we're talking 25,000 years of patterning, right? So, it's not just this lifetime of patterning in the relationship. So first, let's just cut ourselves some slack that, okay, that's the pattern. But again, we have to also understand that every single time that we recognize and see the pattern, every time that we know that that's what is going on, um, we've already neutralized some part of it. Becoming conscious of that pattern is, you might say, half the battle. But as we become conscious of that pattern, and we allow ourselves to witness it, watch it, pay more attention to what's going on inside of us instead of paying attention to how it's playing out, you'll naturally transmute that energy, right? You'll naturally just zero it out, because the reason any pattern perpetuates itself is because there's an emotional charge around it, right? There's some kind of energy, there's some kind of story that says, I shouldn't be doing this. This is wrong. I'm bad. All these things. No, it's just an energetic pattern. And when we kind of start neutralizing those energetic patterns by just witnessing it without all the story about how terrible we are simply because we have this particular perpetuation of a pattern, it's really not the pattern so much, it's the story we tell ourselves about the pattern that kind of keeps it moving. So what happens if we notice these patterns about anything, and we're like, yep, that's what I do, yep, that's what happens, and pay attention to what's going on in the body. How does the body feel? How do the emotions feel? What stories are going on in the mind? Just witnessing all of that. If you're witnessing all of that, you can't be putting that um, pattern into motion, right? You can't be doing both at the same time. So if we're paying attention to what's going on inside, you'll just zero it out. You'll just zero it out. It's from that standpoint, it's really not complicated. And I will say that we don't know how many times it takes of turning our attention inward before all of the energy that made up that pattern in the first place is neutralized. So this thing about trying something once or twice and then beating ourselves up because it didn't work. Okay, please remember 25,000 years of information, right? It's like it may take a month, it may take a year, it may take 2 seconds. You just don't know where you are in that tipping point. But we don't want to negate going into that space, because you never know when that tipping point is available to you. Yeah.
Okay, this question is a lot of energetic movement flowing through our household as of late. I've had a big burst of emotions come over me in the past few days, plus our nonverbal son has restarted self-injurious behaviors, hitting his chin. What support is he requesting or in need of, and any insight you can provide for me? Big hugs.
So one of the things that's happening as we are releasing all of these patterns, you might say, as we're releasing all this energy, we are, say we are like this little sphere, and we're this little sphere of patterns and information and all this other stuff, and we're pretty used to those patterns, after lifetimes of experience. As we shift those patterns out, our field grows, and our field grows, and our field grows, and our field grows. And so sometimes it's like, when our field grows, we have more access to more subtle patterns, you might say. So it's kind of like a catch-22. On the one hand, we're expanding. We'd like to kind of go, well, if I expand, then I'm done with all of this. Not so much. When we expand, we pick up more subtle aspects of information. So kids on the spectrum are already wide open, right? Kids on the spectrum are already their energetic fields are picking up all kinds of subtleties. They could be picking up, an alignment, a planetary alignment. They can be picking up the collective consciousness of humanity. They can be picking up, the emotional energy of the household, you name it. They can be picking up something in their DNA that hasn't been playing out in their life for a really long time, but all of a sudden, because their fields are opening just like ours are, they become attuned to more subtle aspects of themselves. So how do we get through that? How do we get past that? One, I want you to understand that I would say a good 75% of the kids that I'm working with right now are having some kinds of aggressive energy. And when you think about what's going on out in the world, the attempted division, the attempted separation, the attempted, you're on this side, we're on this side, the the anger, the hostility, the frustration, people being sad, their their lives are different than they were, 2.5, 3 years ago, and so we want to understand first that the vast majority of that aggressive energy is them processing aggressive energy for the collective, right? So let's take some of the burden off of you as the parent or the therapist or the teacher or that kind of thing, thinking that that's all about you, right? Or being worried that that's all about you. Right now, I would say 75% of the time it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with this collective energy that they're here supporting. So if we know that, one of the things that we can say to a child when they're demonstrating aggression or being a self-injurious, and or I would just literally say to them, whether you think they understand you or not, I would literally say, wow, you're picking up a lot of aggressive energy, or you're feeling a lot of aggressive energy in your body. Not you are aggressive, you are self-injurious, because it's not them per se. It's not them as an individual that all of a sudden is getting violent. No, it's them as a expanded consciousness that is able to feel that energy and funnel that energy through them. They act out, they act this energy out, period. So first, just acknowledging that that's not them, that's energy moving through them, right? And then let's start teaching them how to create a little bit of a buffering system so that they're not overwhelmed by what they're, you might say, channeling, or what they're open to. Yeah. So, and again, something really simple, like you can say to them, literally say to them, it is not your sole responsibility to take on that energy. Just because you can doesn't mean you have to, right? And just because you can doesn't mean you have to take it on in a way that injures you or other people in the family, right? So these, and I promise, regardless of whether your child is verbal, nonverbal, or somewhere in between, they are consciousness first. And their consciousness absolutely receives that information. We do this in the autism integration series. We do this all the time, reorganizing and reorienting the kinds of information that we give children who are experiencing something. Number one, so they know that we know that that is not them, right? The minute you say you are something, especially to an energetically sensitive child, you've locked them into that, right? That's why labels and things like that, they can be positive and they can be negative. The minute we say you are aggressive, or you're doing this to the family, or this is happening, you see what I'm saying? It's like you've got this huge open field, and now you've got that kind of information going in. How much nicer would it be to recognize that it's a huge energetic field, and that person, that child, is not necessarily responsible for funneling that information through them. And if they're going to funnel it through them, they can funnel it through them through, through any other means, right? They can jump on a trampoline. They can pound a pillow. They can, if they're feeling that energy moving through, we're just giving them new ways of channeling, you might say, that aggressive energy through them. And please understand too, the vast majority of humanity does not know how to negate or neutralize their own aggressive energy. This is why we have these battles. This is why we have this back and forth. This is why we've got a side on, two sides, trying to go at it. It's because those adults don't know how to neutralize that energy. They don't know how to be present with yet the anger that they might feel or the hostility that they might feel. And everybody's feeling a little bit of that right now. Everybody's a little bit edgy. So, yeah. So let's talk to them, talk to them, talk to them, and talk to them as if they are a field of energy doing a service, and you are attempting to help them understand that service and reorient that service so it's not harmful to them or to anybody else.
Next question is, I have started working short term in a classroom with a lot of sensitive little souls. I'm not able to offer them the kind of direct support that I am used to. I'm so aware of the ways in which they are impacted by the classroom teacher. Is there anything I can do other than hold my own frequency?
What I'm hearing to tell you is, yes, hold your own frequency, because then the kids, will gravitate to you. But there's also an option to hold their frequency, right? So when we talk about, let's see, how is this looking? Hold on a second. In some of these systems, in most of these systems, the very fact that it's part of a system, that it's the quote unquote educational system, the very fact that it's part of that system is kind of creates a drag on the energy. It's not that the individuals are necessarily, challenged in that way, but the system itself is, and very frequently people that are engaged in that system, they have to kind of match the system. Yeah, that's why it's very hard for a teacher to go in, even when she's very aware and conscious and things like that, to kind of buck the system. And, she can make individual connections with children, heart to heart kinds of connections. But as far as really lifting that whole energy up to the frequency or to the consciousness where the kids hang out, really challenging, because it's within the framework of a system. It'd be like having to break out of a box in order to be able to express what the kids are really desiring and needing and things like that. So in some ways, if you're not in the position of teacher, I think you have much more opportunity to make that connection, right? To make that connection with the consciousness of the children and just hold that space so that it's like an adult in the room that is actually adding energy to the collective consciousness of the children instead of trying to pull that consciousness down in some way, right? So hold on a second. Yeah, so what I'm hearing for you specifically is, before you go in, before you even see the kids, and maybe on your ride into work, or maybe when you sit for a second before you go to work, really just connect with that collective consciousness, right? The collective consciousness of the kids. They're all in a little bit different patterning themselves. So if you kind of just connect in with that collective consciousness of the kids, then as you walk into that physical space, they are already kind of energetically aligned with you, right? And every time you get tweaked by something that the teacher might say, or something that a therapist says, or the administration says, again, instead of paying attention to that and perpetuating that, because that's just going to drag your energy back down, every time you feel that, go right back to connecting with the collective consciousness of the kids. It's almost like you're saying, okay, whatever is going on out there, I'm with you. I'm here with you, right? They'll start strengthening your field as you're strengthening theirs, right? It's going to be reciprocated really beautifully, and that field will grow and grow and grow, right? What will typically happen is the kids will end up gravitating to you. This used to happen all the time when I was in autism classrooms. I would be in there maybe just 2 days a week, and every kid was sitting on my lap, or hanging on my shoulders, or like coming around and having a conversation. And at first, you think it's just like the novelty of somebody new coming in, and plus I'm like to be a child, and I can be very weird with them sometimes. But when you look at it, when I look at it now, it's like, no, it's just that communication and conversation was going on all the time. And whether they consciously know that or not, they feel it. They feel it. So, yeah, that's what I would say to you. Hope that's helpful.
All right, this question is, can you please dial into my daughter's state of mind? She is now on 5 medications from 2. She's had issues with open sores around her nipples, ongoing for quite some time. They prescribed an antihistamine last week. Now she has an open sore on her arm and prescribed another medication. Help, she has vax-induced autism. I'm worried about these meds and I'm struggling.
And obviously I can't so much give medical advice as I can just take a look energetically at let me see here. What she's showing me is she's showing me this pushing against, or this resistance to a particular energy. I would say in some ways this is almost like an allergic reaction to a certain field of energy, or a certain, and it can be that she might be literally energetically allergic to some of these medications that she's on. It's nice to hear that she's kind of dropping off of some of these. Let me see something. What I hear is, especially around the sores, that in that nipple area, in that whole chest area, looks like there's just heat. There's tons and tons of heat in it. It's just kind of inflamed. And again, what the question that I'm hearing in my head is what actually nurtures me? Does what actually nurtures and supports me versus what doesn't nurture and support me? And so I empathize with struggling with this one, because it's like she's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place in some ways. I mean, it's like she's allergic to some of the things that, and I'm not saying allergic to the medication necessarily, but maybe somewhat allergic to the, how I want to, like the consciousness, or what I really want for her is I really want somebody to say to her just how beautifully sensitive she is, and how beautifully capable she is of nurturing and receiving nurturing, right? It's like there's a bit of a energetic pattern or a belief system there that's like, I don't know if I'm really good at nurturing, or I don't know if I can really fully receive what I need, like fully receive what would be nurturing to me. And so therefore some of these other experiences are attracted to her, you might say, because they kind of match some of the energy that's going on for her. So I would really say it to her myself, and we can all say it to her, that she's beautifully, beautifully capable of being nurtured in the way that she needs to be nurtured. And she is a nurturing being. She is a nurturing being. And we understand that she might be allergic to what what is not nurturing, what just flat out is, what I'm hearing is not considerate of her capacity. Yeah? You might want to ask a little bit more if you've got a follow-up question. I'm happy to. But I think the very first thing we want to do is we want to start imprinting another energy for her, so that we recognize that she is nurturing and she can receive nurturing in the way that it is designed for her. And you might be surprised that when we start imprinting that energy and she really starts understanding that that's what and who she is and what she's capable of, you might notice that all of a sudden the doctors, for some unknown reason, say, okay, we're taking her off this medication too. Or we found a better one that might be, right? It's not reliant on you to negotiate all of that. What we want to do is we want to really shift her energetic field a little bit through what we imprint, information wise, so that she recognizes and realizes who she is in truth. And therefore that's what she's going to draw to her, right? That's what's going to shift around her. So I hope that's helpful. Is there a follow-up on that one? Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right. This question is, my 19-month-old grandson is a very happy boy, very bright, with quite a sense of humor. He is fearless, loves to connect with people, and loves to laugh. He's extremely strong-willed and constantly moving and climbing. He speaks only 1 or 2 words, but seems to understand most. At times he uses hand gestures he invented to communicate. Keeping up with him is exhausting, especially for his mom. How do you see this energetic ball of light, and do you have any information or suggestions for his mom and dad too that could help them in raising this beautiful boy?
Well, one way or another, they're going to expand. It's like we have to understand right now that these children that are being born, a lot of the kids that were born, conceived and or born like through that whole lockdown period, they have a whole, like a kind of back when I saw kids on the spectrum coming in mass, we've got a whole new population coming in mass now. And it's a good description to say that, he's kind of a ball of light, because that's pretty darn close to the truth. It's like, just like literally, and he's literally like expanded information fields is what I'm hearing. So he is a ball of light. He's light frequencies. He's light in the body, right? He's not as interested in necessarily trying to communicate. He will communicate. He's going to continue to verbally communicate and that kind of stuff. But he's going to do that definitely at his own pace, because again, communication is extremely dense. And again, especially right now where we're communicating in ways that really don't make any sense to these kids who hold such an expansive field of awareness and information. What I will say about this kid is give him all kinds of different things to give him all kinds of different things to experience, right? Just give him like all kinds of different things. Whatever the parents might like to experience, give them that, and then expand out beyond that and just play and try different things just for the sake of trying them. Because the other thing with this newer population is they are here for very specific reasons, very specific tasks. They're not like us where they ask, what's my purpose? That's not their thing. It's like they're not spending half of their life trying to figure out what's wrong with them, undoing that, and then finding their purpose and like thinking they're going to go off and live happily ever after. No, they come here, as quite frankly we did as well, we just did it differently. They come here with that encoded already in those light fields that they are. So all they need to have is something that is somewhat close to that trajectory, and they'll jump on that trajectory, and then they'll start expanding from that. This whole thing about being a quote unquote well-rounded child, and when the education system that was of old, and let's make them well-rounded. No, they are well-rounded because they tune into exactly what they're here for, and they just go right down that road. They know exactly what their piece of the puzzle is. So give him a lot of, what about this? What about this? You like these things? Yeah. And I mean, things that just expose him to all kinds of different things. Part of that ball of light, that almost hyperactivity and that energy, is he's gearing up for this trajectory that's going to last his whole life, right? And so he just is like, okay, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Am I funneling it that way? Am I funneling it that way? And it's not like these kids come and say, some of them maybe will do this, okay, I'm here to be a whatever. I'm here to be a scientist. I'm a galactic scientist. I'm a this, I'm a that. Who knows? They don't come and they say that. What they do is they're looking for resonance with what their coding actually is. And once they find that, they just start taking right off. And then that energy dissipates. It starts to filter into their trajectory, instead of right now it's just kind of like, where is it, what's going on, it's like, can't wait to start. And with him too, it's like, don't talk to me about it, and definitely don't tell me that I'm limited because I've got all of this energy. Don't try to put me back in some little box. He's like, instead of like, that's why I was saying about the parents, expansion, as they expand, as they try new things, as they become curious about other things, then one, he's finding his path, and two, they're opening up in such a way that they will be able to support that over the long haul. So yeah, he's gearing up. He's gearing up. So, yeah, I can feel him. Gotta go. Let's go. So, yeah. All right. Sharon?
This question is, my energetically sensitive daughter, age 8 3/4, recently saw disturbing, violent imagery from other kids who thought it was funny. She was, in her words, traumatized and very, very upset. Scared it will stay in her mind, haunting, scaring her. I've coached her that it will fade with, and it lessens in knowing what her nervous system can handle, and saying no if some kid tries to do this again. And any advice to help her, it keeps coming up.
We have a tendency to think positive experiences are working for us and negative experiences are working against us. But that's not necessarily true. So in this case, this negative experience, which she is originally frightened by, or appalled by, disgusted by, in fear of, that's always the first. That's the first iteration, you might say, the first iteration in our expansion into understanding who and what our capacity actually is, right? So, so in her case, say this correctly. So in her case, again, she has a great capacity to neutralize some of this energy, right? She has a great capacity to, the first time you have an experience like that, you don't think you have that capacity. But she wouldn't have that experience unless she had a capacity to go with it, right? As she sees that, as she has seen that, and it was disturbing to her, I would say back to her, I wonder what we can offer back to you. I wonder what we can offer back to people who are having that kind of experience. I wonder, can we offer love back? Can we offer support back? Can we, and not that she has to quote unquote do anything, but can we start teaching her that that I mean, I tell my grandson all the time, if you can see it, you can do something about it. If you've seen it, you can do something about it. And some of the things that we see as human beings, and children are exposed to so much now. But again, if we shift that to, if you have seen it, there's a capacity in you to neutralize that or to do something about it. And I'm not saying that from the standpoint of creating some kind of burden for them that they have to fix it. But I mean, I remember Kai, my grandson, used to see ghosts all the time. I've told you guys this before, and he was scared out of his mind of these ghosts. And Nema, they're on the ceiling of the, in the car, they're in the corner of the room, they're doing this, they're doing that. And I go, honey, I wonder what they need from you. No, they don't need anything from me. They're here, they're scaring me. I said, no, 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 no. If you can see them, I wonder if there's something you can do about them, or that you can do for them. And so then we started flipping it. It's like he would see it somewhere, and I was like, okay, you see that? Let's ask him, what can we do for you? How can we help you? And it just completely neutralized it, right? It completely neutralizes it, because then it's not something happening to him. It's something that he can actually step into as part of his capacity and his bigness. And I don't know about you guys, but I can say too that as things were opening up for me and new skills were coming in, and I was, seeing energies that I didn't really like to see. I'd never seen them before. But, you see those the first time, and the first thing that happens is like, it's like, don't like that, you know. But again, if we take that mindset that we're exposed to these things because it's trying to open a greater capacity. So seeing something that is really, I work with this with a lot of my adult clients too. I had somebody at the beginning of COVID. Somebody sent her some series of videos that were, all about the dark side of the world and cabal stuff and all this other stuff. And she's a very gentle soul. She's a very tender heart. And she saw all this, and it brought up so much of her old life experience, both this lifetime and other lifetimes. So the very first thing that she experienced was almost like trauma because of it. But again, we just kind of reconfiguring that as to, okay, maybe you saw this because you're a light that's big enough to hold that energy. And that's what I would say about this little girl too. I mean, again, nobody wants their kids to see something that is uncomfortable for them to see. And at the same time, if it's already happened, we want to shift that perspective so that they're not the victim of that, observation, or that they're not the victim of that experience, but they actually are big enough, vast enough to support whatever that imagery was about, to neutralize, maybe better said than support. whatever that energy was about. Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you, we have got to get on my high horse for just a couple moments, get up on my stoop, and then I'll come down. But we honestly, we have got to start talking to our children from their place of vastness, as if they are these vast beings of information, instead of talking to them from this very limited perspective that, quite frankly, we were conditioned to grow up with, right? And we really just have to be expanding that dialogue, so that we're pointing them to who they are in truth and what their capacity is, instead of just having them perpetuate some of our own anxieties and fears, right? So we're going to have to step beyond ourselves in order to do that. Yes, this is my fear. Yes, I can be present to that fear. And yes, what would I really, really love for my child to know about themselves? And start talking to them about that. Because the beautiful thing about doing that is, as you're talking to them about what you really want for them, you're really talking to all your inner children too. You're reminding all your inner children that it's okay to be vast, it's okay to be big, it's okay to have capacity. Um, yeah. And when you are in fear, it's okay to have fear too. But we're going to use that as a catalyst. We're not just going to stay in that as a victimization. Yeah. Okay. I'm coming off my high horse now. Step, step, step back down. There we go.
Okay. The mom with the daughter,
Hmm.
she just said thank you for your support.
Okay. Awesome.
My 18-year-old son, upon his request and discussions with a medical doctor, started medication to provide him with some extreme OCD and anxiety. The dosage has been treated or titrated up over the last month with no seen side effects. He says he has felt a softening relief from his extreme anxiety. Little impact to the OCD. Our own relationship has seemed more playful. Could you please check in with him and see what his energetics are looking like physically, mentally, and emotionally?
Yeah, it looks like it's doing a really beautiful job. And again, it's kind of, how do I want to say this? So the anxiety was there long before the OCD behaviors ever really fully manifested. And so it looks like it's almost like doing the reverse. Like, so the anxiety is dropping first, and then the OCD behaviors will start dropping later. It's like the anxiety was there, that grew into OCD. Now the medication is, kind of neutralizing some of that anxiety, right? And so the last thing that you'll probably see titrate off or relax is going to be some of the actual OCD behaviors. But it looks vibrationally, it looks like a really, really good match for him. It does look like there was you might say, a chemical kind of imbalance or something along those lines that this medication seems to be supportive of. um, yeah, it's just a really good match is what it looks like to me. Yeah. And the other thing too is, I would notice that as his anxiety drops, your anxiety is going to drop as well. And as the field of that collective anxiety starts to drop all the more, that's also going to facilitate the reduction of some of those OCD behaviors. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Hope that makes sense. Yeah, it looks like a good match. It's going in the right direction for sure. Yay. All right. All right. So let me see what else is going on here. So again, let's just intend because we can, and align with because we can. Some of the broader awarenesses within ourselves. Yes, we're human beings. Yes, we have, trials and tribulations and stuff going on. Yes, we have emotions coming up and things that, it's almost like feels like there's a super highway going through our bodies at any given moment. And sometimes it feels like we're not in charge of that traffic, like we're not in charge of how it's moving through or those kinds of things. But, but can we let's intend to be more of the observer of that information flowing through our bodies instead of the storytellers. Let's see if we can be more, more aligned with felt perception or sensation in our bodies as a curiosity, instead of just jumping back into a story. The only reason we go into a story of any kind is because it's the only thing that the mind knows how to do. It's the only thing the mind just is attempting to feel safe in the midst of vast change. And I'm talking, we are in the midst of vast change. We're not going to recognize ourselves, even by the end of our own lifetimes, so we're in the midst of vast change. If we just loop it back into an old story, we have a tendency to just recreate that because we're powerful enough to do that. But maybe felt perception, sensation, curiosity, that feels weird, that feels uncomfortable, but that's as far as it goes, right? Okay, that's something moving through. Because what's really happening here is we're shifting from such an identity of what we were imprinted with to a greater identity of being energy in motion. We're spheres of consciousness, you might say, right? And it is true that there's information flowing in and out and through. There's resonance with that, lack of resonance with that. That's all happening. But we're not the ones having all of those experiences. We're the ones witnessing all of those experiences. We're the ones observing all of those experiences. And if we just do that, then all of a sudden we start to feel our own vastness. And if you start to feel your own vastness, it becomes much easier for you to talk to your children about their own vastness. Yeah? Does that make sense? Okay. Awesome. All right. I think that's it. Thank you guys. Really amazing questions. I'm very grateful for them. And yeah, I will see you next month. All right. Lots of love. Bye.